Cranel is chased by a minotaur and saved at the last second by a golden-haired swordswoman, Ais Wallenstein. Embarrassed and covered in blood, he asks his advisor Ina about her, only to get scolded for being reckless. Back home, his goddess Hestia updates his status and secretly discovers he's awakened a new skill, Lyris Freeze. The next day, Bell meets a kind girl named Seer, who gives him a lunchbox and invites him to her pub. After a day of fighting monsters and thinking about Ace, Bell visits the hostess of fertility, where he meets Seer again and unexpectedly runs into the Zeus Familia. A drunk bet mocks Bell for running from the Minotaur, humiliating him. Hurt and frustrated, Bell rushes back into the dungeon, fights until dawn, and collapses into Hestia's arms, vowing through blood and tears that he'll become stronger. Hestia updates Bell's status and is shocked by how fast he's growing thanks to his rare skill, Lyris Freeze. Fearing other gods might target him, she hides the truth and simply tells Bell he has real talent, and begs him not to leave her alone. Afterward, Bell returns to the hostess of fertility, apologizes for last night, and receives another lunchbox from Seer. At the gods' banquet, Hestia bickers with Loki while Freya quietly takes interest in Bell. Hestia then begs Hephaestus to forge a weapon for him, agreeing to pay off a massive debt. Meanwhile, Bell runs errands for the pub staff until Hestia finally delivers the newly forged knife. Later, at Monster Feria, Bell meets Hestia for a date. Just before a Silverback is unleashed to chase her, Bell fights desperately to protect her, shattering his blade and ultimately locking Hestia in a tunnel, vowing he won't lose anyone ever again. Bell remembers losing his grandfather to a monster and how every familia rejected him, until Hestia offered him a home. Back in the present, he locks Hestia in a tunnel and faces the rampaging Silverback alone. Across the city, Ganesha mobilizes familias to contain the escaped beasts, while Aias hunts down the remaining monsters. Hestia races through the tunnels with the knife forged by Hephaestus, finally reaching Bell just as the Silverback corners him. She gives him the weapon, Hestia's knife, and Bell's explosive growth lets him fight back. With Hestia cheering him on, he destroys the Silverback's armor and finishes it in a single decisive strike. The crowd celebrates Bell as a hero. Ais secretly witnesses his victory, and Hestia collapses from exhaustion. Later, Bell stays by her side at the hostess of fertility, learning the knife was custom-made just for him. He embraces Hestia, promising to rely on her more, while elsewhere, a cloaked Freya watches with unsettling interest. At the guild, Ina scolds Bell for wanting to reach the 7th floor, but after checking his stats, she's shocked by his growth and agrees, on the condition he gets proper armor. The next day, she drags him to Hephaestus' shop, where they awkwardly run into a jealous Hestia in a maid outfit. Bell eventually buys a light armor set, and Ina suggests he hire a supporter. That night, Bell saves a small girl, Lili, from her abusive adventurer. The next morning, she appears at the dungeon entrance, offering to be his supporter. Together, they clear monsters efficiently, and Bell decides to team up with her long-term. But Lili secretly steals his knife, only for Ryu to catch her and return it to Bell. Despite the incident, Bell invites Lili to adventure again, and they are in a huge hall together. Meanwhile, Freya watches Bell with growing interest, and Hestia is furious when she finds Bell and Lili holding hands. Hestia drowns her jealousy in drinks after seeing Bell with Lili, and the next morning Bell takes care of her, then invites her on a date. Word spreads among the goddesses, and when Hestia arrives, they all swarm Bell, forcing the pair to flee across the city until they hide in a bell tower. Meanwhile, Lili has her money stolen by a Soma Familia member and vows to steal Bell's knife again. Bell continues adventuring with her, grateful for her help, and later borrows a magic book from Sir. That night, Hestia discovers the book is actually a grimoire, and Bell suddenly gains chantless Firebolt magic. Excited, he rushes into the dungeon, overuses the spell, and faints, only to wake up on Ace's lap in embarrassment. The next day, Hestia reveals the grimoire's huge cost but insists she'll handle it. Elsewhere, Aina learns troubling things about the Soma Familia. Bell confronts Ged about stalking Lili, but both he and Lili hide their worries as they head back into the dungeon, each sensing their partnership may soon come to an end. Lili's tragic past is revealed. Years of abuse from adventurers twisted her into someone who distrusts everyone. Meanwhile, Loki explains to Aina that the Soma Familia is controlled by an addictive divine wine, forcing its members into exploitation and desperation. Despite Hestia's warnings, Bell continues trusting Lili and follows her down to the 10th floor. But it's a trap. Lili steals his knife and abandons him to a horde of orcs, hoping to sell the weapon and escape her familia. Instead, she's betrayed by her own comrades and left as bait for killer ants. At the last moment, Belle arrives, blasting the monsters away with Firebolt and saving her life. Even after her betrayal, he forgives her. Ina scolds him, but Belle insists on helping Lili. The next day, Lili returns, humbled, and Belle welcomes her back as his partner. Freya watches Belle's rapid growth with interest, leaving his future to Otar. Meanwhile, Belle reassures Lili he trusts her despite her past betrayal, and Hestia formally accepts her into the Familia after warning her not to get too close to Belle. The two girls immediately start competing for his attention, forcing Belle to flee to the guild. There, Belle runs into Ais, who returns his lost arm guard and apologizes for the Minotaur incident. Belle apologizes too, and Ais offers to train him. At dawn, she puts him through brutal combat drills on the city wall, knocking him out repeatedly and helping him confront his fear of the Minotaur. In the dungeon, Belle pushes himself harder, inspired by Ais, while Otar trains a powerful Minotaur deep below. After another exhausting day of training, Belle and Ais run into Hestia, who jealously scolds them both. After the credits, the Minotaur Otar trained escapes into the lower floors, killing Canu and setting the stage for Belle's next trial. News spreads that Ais has solo defeated a floor 3-7 boss, leaving Belle discouraged but more determined than ever. Seer drags him into dishwashing duty, and Ryu advises him to grow through real battles, good deeds, and a proper party. After one last sparring session, Belle thanks Ais and heads into the dungeon with Lili. On the 9th floor, Belle senses something wrong. Then the one-horned Minotaur Otar trained appears. Belle's Firebolt barely scratches it, and he's smashed into a wall. Lili is injured protecting him, and Belle forces her to flee while he faces the monster alone. Just as he's about to fall, Ais and the Loki Familia arrive, but Belle refuses to be saved again. Pushing past his fear, Belle fights with everything he has, shattering the Minotaur's weapon, stabbing its arm, and finishing it with a barrage of firebolts. Reveria checks his status, and every ability is S rank. That night, Belle collapses in bed, and Hestia proudly kisses him for his incredible victory. Belle proudly tells Ina he's reached level 2 in just a month and a half. Hestia updates his status and discovers a new skill, Argonaut, the embodiment of Belle's heroic dream. At Donatus, the gods give Belle his second name, Little Rookie. Belle hates it, but Hestia insists it's safer that way. At the Hostess of Fertility, Ryu warns Belle not to go past the 13th floor without a proper party. The next day, Belle searches for new armor and meets Welf Crusoe, a blacksmith who offers to forge equipment for him in exchange for joining his party. Lili disapproves, but the trio quickly proves effective in battle. Belle's speed and Firebolt have grown dramatically, even taking down an infant dragon. Hestia later explains that Belle's glowing hand was Argonaut activating. Welf then forges Belle a new knife using the Minotaur horn, revealing he refuses to make magic swords despite being the last Crusoe who can. With their new gear and formation set, Belle, Lili, and Welf prepare to challenge the dungeon's middle floors. Belle heads into the dungeon's mid-levels with Welf and Lili, while Hestia worries a strange earthquake shake the city. Deep inside, the trio is overwhelmed by hellhounds and Almirage, only to be caught in a deadly pass parade triggered by Takumi Kazuchi's fleeing Familia. A floor collapse sends Belle's party 2 levels down, Welf injured, Lili exhausted, and monsters closing in. On the surface, Hestia launches a rescue quest, joined by Takumi Kazuchi, Hephaestus, Miach, Hermes, and eventually Ryu. Meanwhile, Belle's group pushes deeper, using monster repellent to survive. Welf barely holds on, but Belle's Argonaut-boosted strength lets him defeat a Minotaur, and then 3 more in a frenzy, shocking his companions. As the rescue team prepares to descend, Belle and his party continue fighting for their lives in the dungeon's depths, unaware that help is finally on the way. Ryu and Osfi lead the rescue team through the mid-levels, finding Belle's discarded gear and tracking him toward the safe zone on floor 18. Meanwhile, Belle, carrying an unconscious Welf and Lili, pushes deeper, narrowly escaping the spawning floor boss and collapsing into the Under-Resort, where Ais finds him and brings him to the Loki Familia's camp. Belle wakes in a tent, learns his friends have been healed, and meets Captain Finn before being swarmed by Tiona, and Tiona praising his Minotaur victory. Ais shows Belle the glowing crystal tree of the 18th floor, the Labyrinth Paradise, and later Welf and Lili apologize for slowing him down. During dinner, Hestia's rescue party finally arrives, leading to chaos as she tackles Belle while Lili pulls her off. Mikoto begs forgiveness for causing the pass parade, and Belle accepts. That night, Ais promises to show Bel the dungeon's hidden city, until Hestia wedges herself between them in jealousy. Bel, Hestia, and the others reach Revira, a pricey town on the 18th floor. While Hestia argues with shopkeepers and later joins the girls for a bath, Hermes pulls Bel aside, only to drag him into a peeping disaster that sends Bel crashing into the women's bath and fleeing in shame. Bel later runs into Ryu, who forgives him and shares the tragic story of her fallen familia. That night, Mord, the adventurer who once picked a fight with Bel, plots revenge. The next day, Hestia is kidnapped, and Bel rushes to rescue her. Mord challenges him to a duel and uses invisibility to beat Bel down. With Hermes secretly observing, Bel adapts, dodging Mord's attacks with his eyes closed, blinds him with crystal dust, breaks his sword, and knocks him out. Just as Mord tries to continue the fight, Hestia unleashes her divine power, triggering a violent tremor as the dungeon itself begins to crack. Hestia's divine outburst triggers the dungeon's wrath, sealing the floor and spawning a black Goliath. With no escape, every adventurer is forced to fight. Ryu leads the charge, but even combined attacks from Revira's mages barely scratch the regenerating monster. Bel's party joins the battle, acting as decoys while chaos erupts across the floor. Bel unleashes Argonaut-charged Firebolt, blowing off the Goliath's head, only for it to regenerate and crush him. Near death, Bel hears Hestia calling to him, and Hermes repeats his grandfather's words, awakening Bel's spirit. Empowered, Bel rises with a massive greatsword. Asphi blinds the Goliath, Ryu boosts him with luminous wind, Mikoto restrains it, and Well fires his magic blade. Bel finishes the monster with a full-power heroic shot, then ends it with Hestia's knife. Hermes declares Bel the last hero of Zeus Familia. Back on the surface, Bel and his friends celebrate at the Hostess of Fertility, ending the arc resting peacefully on Hestia's lap.